Welcome to Beconomy. In today's video, we delve into a thought-provoking topic. What would happen if China's economy collapses? If you enjoy analyzing economic trends and exploring the intricacies of global markets, you've come to the right place. Let's dive in. China is currently grappling with an unparalleled surge of civil unrest as citizens flood the streets in protest against the prolonged and stringent lockdown measures enforced for nearly 3 years. The nation's unwavering commitment to a zero-COVID policy has resulted in severe social repercussions, with heart-wrenching tales of families separated and extreme measures like welding apartment doors to contain the illness. These fervent demonstrations go beyond merely challenging lockdown restrictions. They demand a fundamental shift in the political landscape, signifying an extraordinary moment in China's history. The situation further intensified when the government abruptly reversed its COVID policy, leading to a sudden surge of infections across the country and forcing several cities back into lockdown mode. Amidst the instability, the impact of a potential Chinese economic collapse looms large on the global stage, raising crucial questions about its repercussions worldwide. How would a downturn in China's economy affect the interconnected global financial system? What strategies can be employed to mitigate adverse effects on other economies? As the world grapples with this unprecedented situation, finding balanced solutions becomes imperative for safeguarding global prosperity and stability. It is essential to acknowledge that predicting the future, especially in hypothetical scenarios, remains uncertain, even for economists. While contemplating a potential Chinese collapse, we can look to history for insight. The fall of the Soviet Union provides an interesting comparison, as it was once a major economy with authoritative leadership that eventually crumbled due to civil unrest, economic stagnation, and disasters. Despite its significant influence, the global GDP increased following its collapse, albeit at a slightly lower rate. This suggests that a collapse in China may not necessarily have catastrophic consequences on a global scale, but caution must be exercised given China's current economic size, accounting for approximately 18.5% of the world's total output. Comparing raw numbers implies the impact could be around 2.5 times that of the COVID pandemic. But other factors, like the current weaker global economic growth and lack of comparable rising economies, must also be considered. The comparison between the economic size of China and the Soviet Union reveals a striking contrast. When the USSR collapsed, its total output stood at approximately $1.6 trillion, accounting for about 7% of the world's total global output at $23.8 trillion. In contrast, present-day China boasts a staggering GDP of $17.8 trillion, constituting roughly 18.5% of the world's total economic output, which amounts to $96 trillion. Considering raw numbers alone, a proportional drop akin to the Soviet collapse could result in an impact 2.5 times greater, equivalent to the scale of the COVID pandemic. However, relying solely on raw numbers might prove short-sighted. Global economic growth today is not as robust as in the 1980s and 1990s, averaging around 0.5% lower. Notably, one significant factor that cushioned the impact of the Soviet Union's collapse was the growth of economies like China. Presently, there aren't comparably massive economies on the rise to bolster global figures. Furthermore, the aftermath of the USSR's disintegration demonstrated varying outcomes for its constituent states. For instance, East Germany benefited from economic reunification with West Germany, which was the world's third-largest economy at that time. Yet, the most substantial difference between the USSR and China remains at the forefront of our thoughts. It is a crucial distinction, one that has likely been on the minds of many throughout this discussion. China's integration into the global economy far surpasses the relatively isolated USSR. Today, the world is vastly more interconnected, with extensive global supply chains, multinational corporations, international finance, and widespread cross-border communications. While the Soviet Union's impact on the world cannot be ignored, its economy, largely hidden behind the Iron Curtain, accounted for less than 1% of global trade at its peak. In contrast, China now represents 12.5% of total global trade, which accounts for 52% of global output. It's crucial to understand that global trade, as a percentage of output, measures the value added to the global economy through the exchange of goods and services between nations. Even though trade may constitute a smaller proportion of some individual economies, it contributes significantly to the wealth of the world. While global trade's percentage has declined from its peak, losing 12.5% of total global trade abruptly, without rapid replacement, would have severe repercussions, possibly causing the most significant economic downturn in history. Sensational clickbait headlines. A complete and immediate collapse of China's economy is highly unlikely. While the nation faces significant problems, industries that engage heavily in the global economy, like international services, raw material imports, and manufactured goods exports, tend to be more resilient during internal turmoil, as they rely more on the global market than the domestic Chinese economy. An analogy can be drawn to businesses exporting services. Even if the economy of their home country collapses, they can continue providing services to functioning economies worldwide. In reality, the world's dependency on China adds to its economic robustness, making a sudden cessation of its contributions to the global economy improbable. Extreme situations, like an invasion of another country leading to sanctions, could sever connections rapidly. However, any economic collapse within China would likely occur gradually, allowing industries to establish operations in alternative economies over time. Though not as thrilling as some may hope, exploring extreme economic scenarios is valuable for understanding global trade, interdependence, and the evolution of our world into a wealthier and more complex system in recent decades. Thanks for watching our video on what would happen if China's economy collapses. If you found this analysis interesting, don't forget to like and subscribe to Beconomy for more engaging discussions on global economics.